Kia ora koutou everyone. It's great to be here today. Thank you very much for having me. As has been said, I work for Aotearoa, and throughout the COVID-19 crisis, that's had a huge impact on the members that Aotearoa represents, particularly in industries that were hit hard, or that have been hit hard and continue to be hit hard by job losses as that crisis evolves. Such as the aviation industry and in manufacturing. As well as that, Aotearoa also represents a huge number of members working in jobs that were a crucial part of the COVID response and the COVID recovery, such as aged care workers and cleaners. For Aotearoa members, the COVID crisis really highlighted what they already knew, that their work was essential, hard, risky and undervalued. It also exposed glaring problems with inequality, health and safety and worker participation and voice at workplaces, industries and at the government level. So I just wanted to cover a few points today around Aotearoa's campaign to rebuild better, and this is a campaign to ensure that that workers and the community are at the heart of the government's COVID-19 response. So the first point that I wanted to make was around prioritising community health and wellbeing, and I really wanted to focus around the residential aged care sector and the home support sector when I talk about this, because these were frontline workers in the COVID-19 crisis and were placed under a huge amount of stress as a result of the way that the current system is set up and funded. So as we all know, these services, this crucial part of our health system, is contracted out to private providers, and this means that there is chronic issues with understaffing, and as was highlighted very clearly in the COVID-19 crisis. Huge issues with health and safety, and in particular access to PPE gear, which you probably saw many stories about in the media during that time. So for Aotearoa, this is a fundamental issue to us, and what we've been calling for is comprehensive regulation of industries like this, where there are long-standing health and safety issues. We know that there needs to be mandatory staffing levels in residential aged care to ensure that some of our most vulnerable New Zealanders are properly cared for in those facilities. What was really evident when it came to the provision of PPE gear was that workers didn't have a proper voice at the table when it came to health and safety in the industry. It took a huge amount of time, lobbying, media pressure to get the Ministry of Health to do the right thing and make sure that the PPE gear was properly provided to those workers. So workers need a seat at the table when it comes to health and safety, because they're the ones on the front line. They know what's needed, they know what's missing, and they know what works. So as we move out of this crisis, it's absolutely fundamental that we set up systems where workers have a seat at that table and are part of their decision-making in these industries. And of course, things like extended sick leave are absolutely vital, not just in the healthcare setting, but across the board. 5 days minimum, which is what most people get, is simply not enough. Especially in a global pandemic, but of course, when we know that in the healthcare sector, a majority of these workers are women with childcare responsibilities, and when sick leave is used up caring for children who are sick, there's none left, and it forces people back to work when they're not well, furthering the risk of spread of these illnesses. The second part, which must be part of a COVID recovery, is workers' wages. We can no longer accept that it's okay for people to live on poverty wages, and everybody deserves to live with dignity and to live a decent life. ETU has been campaigning for the living wage for a long time now, and while it's been pleasing to see many councils step up and do the right thing, we're still waiting on the government to lead the way for their contracted cleaners and security guards, who worked through the COVID crisis on just above minimum wage, putting themselves and their families at risk, under stress, to come to work and keep our public services operating during that time. The government made a commitment to do this in the last election, but so far they haven't done it. And so this must be a top priority to ensure that the workers that they are responsible for in the public sector and in the wider state sector earn at least the living wage. And further to that, a wider social procurement policy that ensures that when the government is spending public money on jobs, that those jobs are decent jobs, they're well-paid jobs and they're safe jobs. And we need a proper social procurement system that ensures that. And of course, in the medium term, there's plenty of cleaners and plenty of security guards and plenty of other precarious workers who are not employed by government but still face these issues. And that's why fair pay agreements are so important, because these would set industry standards that would cover, a cleaner no matter what building they cleaned, no matter what company they worked for, no matter what part of New Zealand they lived in, and ensure that a decent standard of work was in place and prevented the race to the bottom that is the current system as a result of contracting out, which sees wages and conditions driven down for these workers and further contributes to poverty for working people. Of course, it's become absolutely evident that it's a fundamental role of government to create decent green jobs. And what the crisis has really shown is that the government needs to step up and do that, not just to deal with the current situation of redundancies and in industries such as manufacturing, but of course the climate crisis, which is still there and needs the government to be stepping up and intervening as well. So ETU has been doing work in Taranaki to really create models for worker-led just transitions. So not just transitions that are led solely by business interests, but ones where workers are front and centre of that decision-making. So we need to see that kind of model rolled out in other places across New Zealand, and the government needs to step up and provide funding to ensure that workers can truly participate, that Māori can truly participate in a just transition process. Not only does this help to resolve the issues that have been created through COVID, but of course provides a just transition for the climate crisis as well. I've already talked about this a bit already, but what the crisis really highlighted for us was the way that workers were not able to be part of decision-making and have a voice through decisions that were made, on their jobs, through redundancy processes and things like that, but through health and safety as well. And so that's why strengthening worker participation at the workplace around health and safety, around business decisions, needs to have workers' voice at the table as part of that. And that extends up to the industry level and to the government level as well, so that when government policies and initiatives are being thought through and decided on, that actually workers are consulted about what should happen, because they have the skills and the expertise, I think, as other speakers have previously said, and at the moment that is not being recognised. And finally, a point that I know that lots of people have already covered and will continue to cover today is about ending inequality. And as I said at the start, this crisis has just exposed the mass levels of inequality that we have in New Zealand. I've already talked about fair pay agreements, social procurement and the living wage, but what has been very exposed, of course, is our welfare system and the inadequate support that people receive when they're out of work. And for union members, they know that moving between paid work and unpaid work is something that happens frequently. So we can't separate the issues of welfare and low wages. We need to ensure that no matter whether people are in paid work or in unpaid work, that they have enough to survive and to support their families. So that was actually really what I wanted to end on. Sorry, it's a bit of a quick run through of a wide range of solutions. But unions and union members must be part of the COVID recovery. We need to have decent jobs and decent wages, and this is our chance to start to get the government to actually take these issues seriously and rebuild better. Thank you.
He pātai taku. Kia ora te tuahine. Just one quick question, because there's a combination of some flash words. What is social ethical procurement?
Oh, yes. So the government procures... Oh, sorry, yeah. So the government procures lots of services, and like billions of dollars of government money is spent like contracting different services. But at the moment, the government doesn't really set standards, or doesn't set good enough standards for how that money should be spent. So a big part of that is, workers' wages, workers' jobs, but of course social procurement can be around environmental standards, ensuring Māori and other ethnic participation in the workforce, and all sorts of other things. So,
Ka pai, thanks. I knew if we were talking about asking each other up here, then I was like, there must be other people who have this question. So kia ora.
Cool.
Ngā mihi nui.